Hello, all. Welcome back to the Pleasure and Peace Practice with Tia. I'm Tia, and this is season 2. So, whether you are a new listener or you've been listening since the beginning, I am so glad to have you here. I am a sex educator, licensed mental health therapist, a book fiend, and the digital bestie you always wanted because you can ask me anything via the link in my bio, and it's always anonymous. Plus, I always respond. So this season will be a little different from last season. Instead of a weekly episode, you can expect a new episode to air every other week. I have a toddler, y'all, and I am not yet getting paid enough to do this every single week. But I do want to continue to do this. I do want to continue to offer sex education and mental health support in a way that is accessible for people, especially during the current times that we're living. So, if you are new here and you want to know more about me and what I do, I encourage you to listen to season 1, episode 1, where I go into a lot more detail about who I am and what brought me into doing this work. So, last season, we had 20 episodes, y'all, based around your questions, comments, and curiosities. Those included inquiries around pleasure, consent, communication, trauma informed care, aging bodies, and the desire to feel wanted and safe in both medical and intimate spaces. This season, I am looking forward to continuing to provide mental health and sexual health information with the hope that it will support you in calling more pleasure and peace into your life. Today, I want to talk with y'all a bit about a book I read last year and how I intend to apply it to the work we're doing together. The book is called Decolonizing Therapy, Oppression, Historical Trauma, and Politicizing Your Practice by Jennifer Mullen. One of the biggest takeaways for our purposes today, to paraphrase Mullen, prior to the DSM, also known as the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, which is, for those that don't know, the book that houses codes that therapists like myself must enter in order to get paid by insurance. Prior to that, and the related hospitalizations and formalized sessions, people went to clergy, curanderas, shamans, santeros, dervish, haja, and healers, to name a few. What I'm saying is the DSM is not the end all be all, and neither is the medical complex that we understand as it is today. There are other people and other systems that exist to help bridge the world between the human in this body on this earth and the other, whatever the other might look like to you. One of the best ways to combat trauma, right? While seeing a therapist might work for you, ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that collective joy is how we beat it. While grief and rage are healthy responses to colonization and colonial ongoing violence, what we're currently living in, y'all, it is not only possible, but absolutely necessary to find ways to access joy and pleasure in a world that seeks to destroy you. I hope that by listening to this podcast, you are finding a way to access more of that. I do this podcast because as a mental health therapist and a sex educator, I know how inaccessible therapy and sex education are. This is my way of giving back and ensuring that everyone who wants to access some information from their digital bestie can do so. I do this podcast because as a Black woman, I know what it's like to be in what feels like perpetual rage. I want you to know that I get it. The listener submitted question I want to address today is about grief. The question is, when people are grieving, why do they want to have sex? So, what's interesting about this question is number one, it is completely subjective. While it's obvious that this listener's experience or observation is one that states when I'm grieving or when I've observed someone grieving, they want to have sex, that's valid. It's not a hard and fast rule. So I say this because there are some people who, when they're grieving, they have absolutely zero interest in sex. So I want to be clear that wherever you fall on the spectrum, there's nothing wrong with you. To address the question in the simplest way, sex, when done between consenting people, often feels very good. And when one is grieving, we are seeking things that will help us to feel better. Sometimes this looks like eating ice cream or watching comfort TV. And sometimes it can look like having great sex. When we have sex that feels good, we are flooded with dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. Cortisol, the stress hormone, is reduced, and we often feel that we are in a better mood. When we are grieving, there is elevated cortisol, the stress hormone, along with lowered dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins. We will feel, or we often feel, disconnected and dysregulated. This is all by design, right? So the thing is, our brain is constantly trying to keep us alive. This is one of the best things I learned in my education as a therapist and a sex educator. However, in doing so, we tend to forget that while our brain is smart, it's not so intelligent. We are the ones who are intelligent. Our brain can and does recognize patterns and filters information constantly in an effort to make our lives easier and to keep us safe. So, for some people, when the brain recognizes we're feeling low, grief, for example, it might make a lot of sense to seek sex, which for that person will increase all those feel good hormones and lower their level of stress. Now, you might be wondering, what about if this becomes a problem? Perhaps the person is making risky decisions due to thrill seeking. Well, to that, I have to say, first and foremost, that it's always best to seek professional support. And in the spirit of decolonizing therapy, I have to say that the support you seek, while it could be a sex therapist or a grief therapist, it could also be a yoga therapist or a Reiki instructor or a tarot reader. Just as each of us will respond differently when confronted with grief, and none of us would be wrong, each of us can seek support in ways that make sense to and for us and be right. You might also be wondering, how does one know if their thrill seeking has become a problem? Well, this is also a subjective answer, believe it or not. It is a problem if you believe it is. I hate to disappoint some of you who may be wanting a specific response, but that's just the truth. And anybody who tries to tell you otherwise is lying to your face, trying to sell you something that you don't really need. If the behavior interferes with your life in a way that causes you distress, then that's how you know that you might want to seek some support. Okay. Whatever that support might be for you. Grief is tricky. And it can sometimes feel like it comes from nowhere. Alternatively, sometimes you can know exactly where it comes from. For some of us, it could be like a constant state of being at the moment. And it is an appropriate response to our current circumstance. Every iteration is valid. I'm going to encourage you to take a deep breath to anchor yourself and then consider if there's anyone you trust that you can talk with. The first step in decolonizing therapy, in my opinion, is learning how to trust our natural support system if you're fortunate enough to have one. If you're not, as you know, my inbox is always open and I always respond. I hope that this was helpful. And this season, you can expect more content based around what you want to know about mental health and sex education. So please continue to submit all your questions, comments, and curiosities into my anonymous inbox. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to rate, subscribe on your preferred platform, and share the show. With a new season comes new ways to find me and new offerings. So this season, I'm offering memberships and I finally have my shop open. So what does that mean? You can head over to buymeacoffee.com/pleasure and peace with Tia to donate. You can make a one-time donation. You can become a member, which is a recurring monthly donation, or you can purchase an item. So currently, I have a Book Bestie membership, which is live, where for $5 a month, you will receive monthly book recommendations, usually what I'm reading, occasional voice notes or reflections, and context around the book. Why a book might matter, what's important about it, some things that I might be thinking about. We can dialogue. You get to support me on a monthly basis while receiving exclusive book related posts and messages via Discord. And you can get all of that for $5 a month. You can try it out for free for 7 days if you like. And then after that, your card or whatever form of payment you put on file will be charged. Members will also receive a discount on any items I have for sale now and in the future. So at the moment, I have my Pressure in Transition, a guide to perimenopause, sex, and self compassion up for sale. I know last season we had quite a lot of conversation around perimenopause, and it was a popular episode. Though that series, those were popular episodes. So this digital guide will provide you with exercises and prompts to help you to identify and normalize emotional shifts, reconnect with your body, redefine your relationship with sex and pleasure on your own terms, transform negative self talk into loving, affirming inner dialogue, create grounding rituals to support emotional regulation and self care, and anchor yourself to hope. So, all of that is included in that PDF that is currently on sale on my site for $25, and members can receive it for $18. So, if you wanted to become a book bestie during the free trial period for 7 days and then purchase that item for $18, it's up there for you. Obviously, I'd love for you to stay on and we can talk about books and all those things. But if you just wanted to try that, that is also an option. You can find all of my episodes on Buzzsprout. So that would be pleasure and peace with Tia.buzzsprout.com. I hope you're noticing a theme here. Almost everywhere, I'm pleasure and peace with Tia. So for memberships and my shop, that is buymeacoffee.com/pleasure and peace with Tia. On Buzzsprout, I am pleasure and peace with Tia.buzzsprout.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at Pleasure and Peace with Tia. I also answer questions and interact with listeners there. Last, but certainly not least, you can find me on Storygraph at Pleasure and Peace with Tia if you're interested in keeping up with what I'm reading without actual interaction with me. That is reserved for my book club besties. As a reminder, new episodes this season will air every other week, everywhere you listen to podcasts. So, 2 weeks from now, you'll have a new episode. Until next time, I'm Tia, your pleasure and peace practitioner, reminding you that I've got you and you've got this. I'll talk to y'all soon.